Hey everyone, happy Sunday to you. I hope all is well. We are already in week 5. Man, I know I say this every week, but I swear it feels like we just started. These semesters fly by so quickly. So this week, I know everybody completed their quiz on the ideology of substance abuse. This week, we continue to move towards our assessment and diagnose, our treatment plan with looking at assessment and diagnoses, right? So one thing I want to encourage you to remember is I want to tell you that the author is the expert, right? Your textbook author, they are the experts. I'm just giving you some real world examples of how that information looks, right? So keep that in mind. That's why I don't often talk about the textbook stuff, because I'm assuming and hoping that you will read that as you're supposed to and retain that information in some way. I'm just here to enhance that information with real world experiences, right, in some way. So that's the reason I don't go over necessarily the textbook information, because I kind of expect you to read that, do what you will with that, with the quizzes and the DBs and that kind of thing. So that brings us to assessment and diagnosis, right? And as we're working towards our treatment plan. So let me, before I jump into that, is Week 9, your treatment plan's due. That's worth 250 points. That's a quarter of your grade. I need to impress that upon you. Don't wait till the last week to start looking at it. As each of these chapters build on working towards that, and in your 1300 class, to be really honest, that's working towards this as well. Getting to know the support groups, getting to know what's available so that you can put these options on a treatment plan, right? And a treatment plan, remember, is just a roadmap to what you and your client's going to do, right? What your client's going to do, ideally. It's got a problem. It's got a diagnosis. Then it's got a problem statement. Well, it's got several problem statements, actually. It's got a diagnosis, a behavioral definition, I think is what we're calling it today. It changes. Problem statement, goal, objective, and intervention, right? And so it just basically, here's the diagnosis. Like if I say alcohol use disorder is the diagnosis, then the behavioral definition is, as evidenced by. Why are you giving that definition? It's justification for that definition or for that diagnosis, right? Now, what is the client's goal? Then the objective is what are you going to meet that goal? And then the intervention is how are we going to help that client? I mentioned last week, I think, about the treatment planner. I'll put some information on it here, so if you want to look for that, you can. It's a great book. It'll walk you through evidence-based treatment. It's a really good helper. I used the heck out of it early on in my career. Now everything's electronic that I do, but it's still based on that book. And there's a planner for everything, not just addiction. So that brings me to this, assessment and diagnosis. As LCDCs, our scope of practice is substance use disorders. Now, does that mean we don't assess other problems? Of course not. Of course we do, right? We can diagnose substance use disorders. That's our scope of practice. Well, what if this person has depression or anxiety, like a legitimate disorder? We can put that in a problem statement, but we can't diagnose that as LCDCs. We need to be familiar with co-occurring disorders, no question, because we will work with that, right? Just because we can't diagnose it doesn't mean we work with it. And I'm gonna offer you this is the thing that the reference point to remember when working with other things: relationship problems, career problems, family problems, relationship problems, is we work with all of that mental health problems as it relates to the substance use disorder. That's how we work with that. So we have a treatment plan that says alcohol use disorder severe. Problem statements, always going to be your number one problem statement, will always have to do with substance use disorder as an LCDC. Now, as an LPC, MFT, CSW, all of those other licensures, advanced licensures for therapists, we can do whatever we want there, right? But for LCDCs, it has to be your diagnosis needs to remain with substance use, right? That doesn't mean that in your first problem statement, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Your first problem statement needs to be related to that substance use disorder directly. So while substance use disorders is the umbrella term, in the DSM, there's 10 or 11, I forget exactly, actual substance use disorders: alcohol use disorder, cannabis use disorder, anxiolytic disorder. There's cocaine use disorder. There's lots of disorders under there. Specifically, substance use disorder is not it's an umbrella term, right? That said, it's under a chapter in the DSM, which you have a PDF copy of the outdated DSM, but the substance use chapters are the same. And I would encourage you to all get a DSM, a new one, if you don't have one. This is how we get our diagnoses, right? That said, is in the DSM, it's in the DSM-5, it's under the category substance and related disorders. I was gonna do this as a bonus question. I usually do, but I'll just gambling use disorder is the related disorder, right? They put that under substance use because the research shows it lights up the same part of the brain and has very similar effects. So that said, I have a different bonus question I'm going to give you today anyway. It's more related to treatment planning, since that's what we're working towards. But that said, is the first problem statement needs to be substance use disorder in some way. Second and third, fourth, whatever problem statements can address mental health issues, family conflict, relationship conflict. So while we're not diagnosing that, we don't have to diagnose it for it to be a problem statement, right? Our diagnosis is out, in this case, just for random example, is alcohol use disorder. Our first problem can be anything from substance. You can use the blanket term substance use disorder there, alcohol use disorder, whatever, as our first problem statement. Our second problem statement, maybe they are having symptoms of depression or anxiety, mental health issues. It can be our second problem statement. As evidenced by client reports symptoms of anhedonia, fatigue, sadness, lack of self-worth, whatever. We list the symptoms. That's how we can support that as a problem statement. Maybe our goal is to alleviate, in a goal, you always want to alleviate something and add something. But the client has a role in the goal. That's their goals, not ours. But in this case, let's just say we want to alleviate depressive symptoms and return to a normal daily functioning, or something, however it's worded, right? Something similar. So we've taken away something and added something. Now our intervention is going to be, or our objective is okay, well, maybe we'll refer this client to individual therapy with a dually licensed professional. I send to dually licensed professionals often because that means when I say dually licensed professional, I'm referring to someone with the LCDC license and a therapy license, right? So while the terms therapist and counselor can be interchangeable for a therapist, they're not so much interchangeable for an LCDC. We're counselors. That's our label, right? Licensed chemical dependency counselor. That's our label. We're not therapist. Therapists can be labeled counselors, and that's interchangeable there. But as an LCDC, it's important you represent yourself as such, not a therapist, right? We're not trained as that, as LCDCs. But we still work with those things, and that's kind of how we would do that in a treatment plan, just to give you a little bit of insight. So, assessment, we're always assessing our clients in some way. Every time we talk or interact with them, we are assessing them in some way. So this week you have your DB on, your DB3 on Chapter 5, Assessment and Diagnosis. Next week you'll have a quiz on treatment plan and treatment settings, and I'll talk much more about treatment settings. I worked at a treatment center for about 8 years, many roles within that treatment center, and I still, as an interventionist, well, even as a therapist, I work with many treatment centers today. So I have lots of experience about how they work, that kind of thing. We'll talk much more about that. And then the next Chapter 7, your DB4, will be week 8 with individual treatment, Chapter 7. Then you have a midterm break, and then you come back, you do a chapter on group counseling, and then your treatment plan assignments too. So be looking ahead towards this. Please don't let this sneak up on you. It's worth too much of your grade for you not to. So that said, guys, I will do another video next week. We'll pick it up with treatment planning again and treatment settings. I will go ahead and post a bonus points, or since we took the quiz, I'll go ahead and post a bonus points for that. Maybe you can bring that grade up a little bit for those that need it. It'll be something you can't find in the book. It's not in class, as I've mentioned before. Most of the bonus points I give you, you're gonna have to work for a little bit because they're related to what you need. Especially this one will absolutely be related to this. But everything you need is in Blackboard to find the answers. Guys, as always, if I can be of any assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out and be thinking ahead about that treatment plan. I will post that book as well. And for you to start, for those that want to look into it, I would highly encourage you to, because at some point you're all going to be writing treatment plans if you do this work, right? And whether you do this work as an LCDC, or you do this work as a therapist at some point, or you do this work as a social worker, you will always have treatment plans to write. So guys, I look forward to reading your DBs this week, and we'll talk soon.